Bonjour tout le monde! Moving to France in my 20s was one of the biggest adventures of my life. It was everything from exciting to terrifying and full of lessons. But here's the thing. For every mistake I made, and trust me, there were a lot of them, there were a few things that I absolutely nailed and that I'm actually pretty proud of myself for getting right. So today, that's what I want to get into. 7 things that I did right when I moved to France. Just decisions that helped me to be more prepared, even saved my sanity in some cases, boosted my confidence, and just made the early days that much smoother for me. So grab yourself something to drink, something nice and warm and cozy, and we're going to get right into it. All right, number 1, I started learning French before I arrived in France. And I want to confess something to you. My French was not great when I first arrived in France. I thought it was. I thought I was intermediate. I'd been taking French classes, but real life French hit me like a baguette to the face. It smacked me hard. And people spoke fast. I just wasn't getting it. And my classroom French lessons didn't quite prepare me for real life French. I was intermediate on paper, but it was certainly an adjustment trying to communicate with actual real life French people when they were in front of me. But the key here is that I started learning before I even got here. I took classes, I listened to podcasts, I practiced the basics. And you know what? That foundation made a world of difference. So my advice is start learning now. I hear from people all the time, I'm going to learn French when I get there. No, do not go that route. Take 10 minutes a day even, and your future self in France is going to thank you. And just a shout out to LingoPie. If you like TV and movies, they're kind of like the Netflix of language learning. So be sure to sign up for their free trial. But whatever you do, just start. That link is down in the description. All right, number 2, I didn't ship my stuff across the Atlantic. I moved to France with just 2 suitcases, and that was one of my best decisions because I didn't have to deal with container ships full of furniture. There was no customs drama, no fears over things going missing, and I really went minimalist on purpose with my move, which is kind of funny because since then I have gone in the other direction entirely. But at that time, what I did was I sold everything in my little New York City studio apartment and I started fresh. It saved me money. It saved me stress and also the heartbreak of unpacking broken or damaged goods. Now, my tip is pack light, keep it simple. Everything you have in the US, you can have it here in France too. There's stores like IKEA and home goods stores. And if you do need to ship stuff, use Send My Bag. I have a discount code down below. I use them several times per year and they're easy to use and will get you your suitcase, often cheaper than it is to take it on an airplane if you have a lot of things. And also just a note, I actually moved to France twice. The first was for a work contract, less than a year, teaching English. And the second time was after Tom and I got married. So the second time was for good, but both times I came with just 2 suitcases. All right, number 3, I made sure that I had a purpose. And this one is big. And if you know that saying, failing to plan is planning to fail, well, yeah, that's me in a nutshell, at least for the important things in life. And I am someone who feels most at ease when I have a plan to give me this illusion of control. And that pretty much goes for anything in my life. But if I feel like I'm just winging something or just floating along mindlessly without a plan, it makes me feel like I have no control. And for important things, you want to have a purpose. So I just mean in this context, it meant that making sure when I woke up every morning that I had something to do, some sort of purpose. And I didn't want to get into a rut where like I kind of naturally would become a homebody and just sat around all day. And I know this is going to look different for everyone, but it might be a job, a volunteer opportunity, going to a gym, you take French lessons, or just a standing commitment, just something to make sure that I was productive and helping myself and hopefully others in some way. So for me, specifically, that looked like 3 things. 1, very shortly after I moved, I started my blog and later this YouTube channel. 2, I was also working. I made sure I had a way to bring money in. And 3, I got my sweet dog Dagny, who unfortunately we lost a couple of years ago. But in the early days, it forced me to practice French with strangers out in the park, out and about. It got me out of the house multiple times a day. So do whatever you need to do, whatever it is, whether it's a job, a hobby, a volunteer gig, anything. Just something that gives you a sense of purpose, make that a priority. All right, the next thing I did right, number 4, I put myself out there socially. And I'm more of an introvert. I'm not a social butterfly, so that in and of itself can be difficult. And making friends in France can be difficult, especially in smaller towns. You'll find, or at least I found, that French people tend to make friends for life, people they grew up with, people that they know from back home, or maybe they even still live in their hometown. And these circles are hard to break into. But here's the thing, you have to try. So just to give you examples, I joined meetup groups. I joined a gym. I even went to a Mormon church after meeting missionaries out in the park one day, despite not being religious at all. And I talked to people I met through Dagny at the park when we were out walking. And yeah, there were awkward moments. No, I didn't click with everyone. But guess what? I also made friends, and it helped me to be more comfortable in the early days in my second language. So whether you join a hobby group, a language exchange, you chat up your neighbors, don't wait for people to come to you. There's no welcome wagon. Be brave. Put yourself out there. Be social, even if it's against your nature, because that's only going to help you to get settled. All right, number 5, I started my blog, We in France, same name as the channel, and that was a game changer. And my blog, it led me here to YouTube, and here we are. So it just ties into what I just said about having a purpose and putting yourself out there. My blog started out as a personal diary of sorts and just a way for me to have a written record of the early years. And it was a way for me to process my thoughts that weren't always pretty, weren't always so, kind of evolved and non-judgmental. There were challenges in the early days of moving abroad. And it helped me connect with other people who could relate and just kind of get those feelings out of me and out into the universe. Whether, you start a blog, a journal, a private vlog, just something to get your thoughts out. I find that journaling in some way can be incredibly rewarding. And I've actually met several people I consider really close friends through blogging, and also connecting with all of you through my posts and my videos here. It energizes me. It makes me feel like I have a purpose still and that my content matters. I heard from a woman just the other day, my blog was the first thing she found when she moved to France, one of the only Americans who was blogging at that time. And she told me this just last week. She's been reading me for 8 years, so that's just something that just warms my heart. And yeah, I've been in France a while now. I'm not getting adjusted, but still having a purpose matters. And just knowing you guys out there that, my content has helped you in some way, it's an instant mood booster and it erases any stressful parts of my day. So I want to thank you, as always, for being a part of this community. You do more for me than you know, and I hope I can repay you through my content, repay that favor. All right, number 6, I found a place to live before I arrived. You see a pattern here. Learn French before you arrive. Find a place to live before you get here. Now, I will admit, the first time I moved here, I lived in a shed. Yes, like really, a converted shed, I'll say that, in an Italian woman's backyard. It was tiny. I was taller than the ceilings. I had to bend down if I had heels on, but it worked. And more importantly, it was cheap, and I had it lined up before I arrived. And yes, there was heat, a little refrigerator, a bathroom, toilet, shower, all of that. Now, even if I couldn't stand up straight, it made the transition so much smoother because I had a bed to lay my head on at night. So did I stay there forever? No. But do your best to book temporary housing. Get something so you don't arrive jet lagged and homeless or paying exorbitant amounts at a hotel. All right, number 7, I mentally prepared myself and researched like crazy. Now, I make no secret of it. Moving abroad is hard, it's messy, and it is full of surprises. I made it a point to read every blog, forum, horror story, everything I could find. Why? Because I wanted to be prepared for the challenges and not blindsided by them. So my tip, it's do your homework. The more you know, the better equipped you're going to be to handle the ups and the downs of living abroad, whether it's temporary or whether you plan to make a life here. And I'll make another point. I sought out not only the great experiences, people loving their life and talking about it, but I sought out people having a hard time, people who decided to maybe move home, people not scared to talk about the struggles. I read about these experiences, good and bad, people who were students all the way up to retired age. I wanted to know everything there was to know. Now, did I succeed? I don't know, but I felt I was reasonably prepared, and I didn't do this to talk myself out of the move. It was just the opposite. I wanted to be more prepared for what might lie ahead than to go into this new life, like with my rose-colored glasses on. I wanted my eyes open. And that's something I stress on We in France and talk about often, maybe too much, that things are not always going to be rosy. So I went into it expecting the worst, hoping for the best, and I feel like real life kind of equaled out somewhere in the middle. So those are the 7 things I feel I did right when I first moved to France in my 20s. Were there mistakes? Of course, there always are going to be mistakes, but these wins made all the difference. And I want to point out that success is going to look different to everyone. Maybe that means making a lot of money. Maybe that means staying in France forever, raising a family here, or just being able to feel okay when you wake up in the morning, being independent at least a functional level with the language. Whatever success means to you, it's personal, so I want to acknowledge that. And I also want to go deep here. As I was drafting my bullet points for this video, it made me wonder, Diane, why after all these years have you never thought to make a video about everything that you've done right? And my own psychoanalysis says it's because I'm uncomfortable. I'll admit it. I'm uncomfortable with looking like I'm some kind of expert. I've always felt that to start a blog and a YouTube channel where you're talking to people, it's self-indulgent enough to think that people actually care what I have to say. So standing up here and saying, hey, I'm proud of myself, I did this stuff right, it just seemed like too much, so I've never done it. And despite being in real life a confident, prepared, self-assured person, here it's just easier to paint myself as someone who makes a lot of mistakes. And people love judging others and pointing out other people's flaws and telling them what they should have or would have done. People love that stuff. They love seeing people's mistakes and problems. I know that because I see the views on videos where I talk about mistakes and problems. But I just wanted to avoid anyone thinking I was too proud. It's easier to take yourself down a few notches before anyone else can. But not today. Coming in with this video, just basically realizing that whether I talk about my mistakes or my triumphs, there's going to be someone out there who's going to find my content helpful. And that's all I could ever want as a content creator. Truthfully, I had this strange bias where by default, I thought only my mistakes could help others, and that only by kind of painting myself as some kind of, I don't want to say idiot, but someone who makes a lot of mistakes, disproportionately so, by only talking about that stuff, that's the only stuff that would help you guys. And that's not the case. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I think maybe this video might be helpful too. And if my content speaks to you, I couldn't be happier about that. I can't shout that from the rooftops enough. And if it doesn't, well, you're not going to be here for long. I just want to help you because I appreciate everyone who's helped me over the years and shared a piece of themselves and their story. So yeah, anyway, explanations aside, I am proud of the challenges that I've overcome. I don't think I talk about that side enough for reasons I just mentioned, but I might change that. Let me know what you want to see. But I am proud of the steps I've taken to make a life for myself here in France with Tom, and I think it's okay to talk about that. As women, I think sometimes we kind of dim our own light, and I don't want that for you. I don't want that for myself, so I'm just gonna stop my little diatribe there. If you enjoyed this, thumbs up, subscribe. It really does help, and I am so close to that 100K, so whack that like button as hard as you can. Hit subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you back on We in France soon. Salut!